So I'm going to do the welcome, mate, because I know you've probably seen these Meet the Members ones, and I get bored by doing intros and welcome. So it's just two mates having a chat. So we're recording. I'm going to cut the video right here. So put on your best face in 3, 2, 1, go.
G'day, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. Good. I was waiting for your young and beautiful faces. That's the best you've got, is it, Washington?
That's it.
Now, mate, welcome to Dad Bod. Now, mate, we've been mates for a while, so it's a bit wanky talking to you across a video because we're in the same state. I can probably see you from where I am now, but true to our word, we're doing Meet the Members. You are one of the original Dad Bodders, and I would have to say you are a quintessential success story. And the reason why you're successful is not just because you've got amazing results, but because you're a pain in the ass from the day one. You fought fucking tooth and nail against everything I asked you to do. You fucking did, which is great, because it's really easy to have success stories when someone's motivated and on brand. But you're one of those Dad Bods originally where you were challenged by some of the things I wanted you to do what we decided was going to be the best thing.
Because you called me a fucking princess every week.
I called you a fucking princess. We were being a princess. You were waving the princess flag. But what was good about it is because you pushed back, and it took you a long time to come on board, you fought the system, you fought the process. And so to come from that, where there was a couple of times there when you said, fuck you, I'm out. I know you did. Fuck you, I'm out. Our friendship's gone. You hate your fucking kids, hate your family. Nothing's left. I know you did that bit where you're right on the edge of going, fuck, this is too hard. But you didn't. You came full circle. So the success story bit for me comes from, yes, you got good results and you look fucking amazing. You've had your 60th birthday. Everyone fucking says you look 10 years younger. All that good shit, which we'll talk about. But more that you were bitching and fighting at the beginning. So let's go back to the beginning when you and I first started talking about health and wellness and Dad Bod, because we've been mates for how many years now?
About 20 years.
About 20 years, yeah. I did some work for your company when you were a photographer, way back in the days.
2002.
Jesus, 2002. So we're talking here, we're almost 20 years ago. So we've been mates on and off, and we've travelled a bit and we've done shit. And then all of a sudden you said, Dad Bod, I want to do something. Now, back then, what was the driver?
Well, actually, Mike, I didn't say I want to do something. You bullied me into it, but that's okay. Fair enough.
All right, so on the brochure, it'll say, when Chris, when I write the hero's journey, and it says, Chris was inspired one day and woke up and said he wanted to do it. It really was. That was me saying, you're a fat fucker, you're going to die. You just sent me an invite to your 60th birthday. I don't think you're going to be alive, you prick. It'll be an 60th funeral. I did all that. And you went, well, fuck you, what are we going to do about it? So we had this little bit of an argy-bargy. So back then, what was the trigger, mate? Why did you allow me to bully you back then? What was happening in your life that made you realise that you need to make some changes?
Look, I suppose it had been coming for a little while, probably 12 to 18 months. I'd sort of been looking at myself in the mirror and I'm thinking, Jesus, what a fat fuck. And, you know...
You were no longer attracted to yourself, mate.
Trying to fool myself that, hey, I don't look so bad after all. But the reality was that, you know, I was buying almost XXX shirts, and at one stage I bought a 4XL shirt down in Fremantle, and I thought, okay, you know, that is just going too far. And plus, I was just being a glutton as well, you know, when I was, you know, Friday night, I would eat a whole pizza, I would eat a whole bar of chocolate and probably a bottle and a half of wine and a couple of beers. And that probably happened over a whole weekend as well. Not, you know, a pizza every night, but I was having a big meal every night, going for seconds, and then on the weekends, really pigging out. And obviously my waistline, look, I didn't feel particularly unhealthy, but I certainly looked it. And I was getting really pasty. I started looking really pasty. I was going to the gym, but I wasn't going to the gym as often as I do now. And yeah, when I was sort of looking at myself in the mirror and I thought, geez, you got a big belly, you got a fat ass, you look pasty, and it's just not healthy. And look, I had another reason as well, you know, because, you know, I'm going in for this kidney exchange with my wife, probably within the next 12 months. So there was a double reason to get my shit together. One, because I was obviously overweight. I was reaching 60. I was a glutton. And yeah, I'll make no bones about it. You just can't fool yourself after a while. And yeah, it was just time to do something. And then when we crossed paths, and you were posting a bit of stuff about being healthy, and I thought, and then you'd sort of set that challenge in January for, remember what it was called now, but it was a
21 days, 21-day challenge.
21-day challenge, and I think I remember sending you an email saying, fuck it, I'm not going to do it in January, Mike. I'll do it next month. Send me a reminder next month. I'll do it then. And I thought, look, you're just putting off the inevitable. So get your shit together. And then you came back at me, and I thought, okay, might as well. And I was down in Margaret River, and I'd had a big New Year and Christmas, and like you do, you pig out. And yeah, it was a good time. It was just a good time to start. So,
so a couple of things, but let's dig a bit, because I think I don't want to lose some of the stuff, because my memory, you've always been a fancy fuck and a fancy food person. You like your good food. You
I've got a
well.
wife
You
that cooks really well.
She cooks beautifully, mate, and I've been on the receiving end of many a beautiful meal from young Karen. But she cooks beautiful food, but you love your restaurant food. You're very well travelled. You enjoy lovely wines. You enjoy the good things in life. And so you've lived a pretty good life of decadence. And that, yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, and that's great. But you really had no boundaries when it came to booze and food. You just enjoyed life, and you deserved it. You've worked hard. You've been very successful. You deserve that. But you certainly were getting to the stage where things were starting to get out of control. I do remember that. The thing I wanted to dig down, and I genuinely, this is my genuine face, you don't get that very often. I really appreciate you opening up about the Karen side of things, and the fact you are going in for a kidney transplant, because you have this amazing other reason. Dad bods for us is like about getting in shape for us. But what's the reason you need to get in shape for you for the kidney transplant? Just walk us through that so the guys are understanding that bit.
Well, look, my wife Karen has polycystic kidney disease, and her kidney function is getting down to a dangerously low level where she'll have to go on to dialysis, or she gets a kidney transplant. So I've put my hand up and said, I'm happy to donate one of my kidneys, and there's an opportunity in Australia where you can, if we're compatible. We're not blood compatible, but we can be compatible on a tissue compatibility. So we're being tested for that at the moment. Now, if we're not compatible, there's also a thing in Australia where it's a kidney exchange, where I can donate one of my kidneys to somebody in Australia that needs one that's compatible with me, either blood type or tissue type. And at the same time that a kidney is taken out of my body, it is flown somewhere in Australia. It might be Western Australia, it might be Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland, whatever. And at the same time, the Australian health officials ensure that a kidney is transplanted into Karen from another donor somewhere else in Australia. So we're going through a lot of tests at the moment: myocardial, heart tests, chest X-rays, kidney functions, multiple blood tests, stress tests, health tests, all sorts of tests. And so the health department is building up a data of information about me, about Karen. And then once Karen gets down to a certain level with her kidney function, then the green button is pressed, and a transplant occurs at some stage within the next 12 months. So another reason for me to get my shit together was make sure that my body is healthy enough to withstand that type of an operation, and also, more importantly, to come out of it at the other end so that I'm healthy enough to have good resistance, and also to recover quickly and get on with the rest of my life.
So, excuse my ignorance, mate. So when you're accepted for the transplant process, obviously you can either have a direct transplant with Karen if that works, but if not, you're going into the pool. Does the transplant occur at the same time as the transplant occurs for Karen? So it comes out of your body and into someone else.
On the same day, that the health
Okay.
officials in Australia do this 3 times in a year,
Wow.
and on the same day that my kidney is taken out, a kidney is taken out of somebody else in Australia and is given to Karen on exactly the same day.
So you're basically on standby. You just wait until you get the green light, and you've got to be in fit, healthy
Well,
shape.
it's all very much planned. So you'll be given a date, and you know
Okay,
that
cool.
it's going to happen on that day.
Excellent. So you're working towards making sure that you're in the right shape and space, so that if you have to go in for surgery, you're going to go into it well and come out of it well.
That's right.
Awesome. So from a dad bod perspective, you had drivers around your own. You fell out of love with yourself. You no longer found yourself sexually attractive in the mirror, which is exciting. But but you also had the underlying driver that Karen, your lovely lady, needed your kidney, and you needed to be able to do that. So you had a bunch of reasons. So how fat were you? How much overweight were you? How deconditioned were you? Because there's a lot of guys watching this who are new to the group who look at you now and you're a beautiful looking specimen, but what were you like earlier this year? How big were you? How deconditioned were you?
Well, I'm 1.82 m, and so that's 6 foot almost. And I was at one stage I was 120 kilos. So and that had built up because I remember when we came to Australia in 1989, I was going to join the Air Force as a photographic officer, and I had to be 85 kilos, and I was 85 kilos when I applied for that position, and so I would have been 29 at that stage.
Okay.
So yeah,
30 years ago.
So from 85 kilos to 120 kilos, that's a lot of.
Yeah, it's a 35 kilos over 30 years. So you put on a kilo a year, kilo-ish a year to get to 60. When you just turned 60, but earlier this year, going into your 60th year.
That's right. So when we started,
that was your heaviest weight, was 120?
That was my heaviest weight. So when we started the challenge, I was 118.3 kilos because I took a picture, as you remember, with my feet.
I remember making you go into your bathroom and you said to me, I'll send you through my weight. And I was like, fuck you, I don't believe you. I love you, but I don't believe you. I made you take a photo of your bathroom scales with your beautiful feet. So I actually knew exactly what your weight was. Yeah,
so I was 118.3. And so I did the 21-day challenge, which was no alcohol, cut your carbs, use Carb Manager to count your carbs, and look really carefully at everything you put in your mouth. And so, I did, and I lost, I can't remember exactly, but I lost about 5 to 7 kilos in that, I think it was about 5 kilos in that 21 days. And I thought, wow, you can do it. There's definitely results there. You can see it on the scales. I could see it in my belt buckle. And that sort of really inspired me. And I remember touching base with you a few times about carbs and just being aware of how many carbs and what sort of protein levels I should be putting in my body, and the types of food that I should be eating to continue on that journey. And even after that 21 days, I just carried on. And I'm still there now. And I'm sort of.
So where are you at now? What are your numbers now compared to where you were? You were 120 at your peak. What are you
today, when I weighed myself this morning, I weighed myself pretty much every day now. I was 92.7. So that's 25 and a half kilos from the start date.
And that's been how long, Chris? So that we're talking early January, and now
that was January the 4th, because I remember it exactly.
Okay. The day our friendship went like this, we were like, ooh. So January the 4th, and we're now coming up to November. So it's been 10 months, 8 or 9, 10 months ish.
Yeah. So the weight loss has really slowed. I suppose. Can I say that I've not been as careful? But it's not that I'm not being careful. I'm just not sort of counting too much these days. But I've sort of kept on the low carb diet. There's no doubt about that. I don't eat bread. I don't eat pasta. I very occasionally have a spoonful of rice with some curry. And
do you
yeah,
have any desires, mate? Do you have any desires for the? Because you went through a stage there where you were bitching about the pasta and the breads, and you still wanted. How are you now? Do you still have a desire for pastas and breads and the carb treats you used to love?
I don't miss the pasta. Look, we went to a winery last weekend for lunch with some boys, and I had some bread on that particular day, and I really enjoyed it. I've got to say, there's nothing like a crusty loaf of bread with a load of butter on it. So yeah, I had some bread then, but I don't go out of my way, and I certainly don't buy bread. I make my own keto. I make my own keto rolls pretty much every single weekend. I make my own keto crumpets, 2 or 3 times a week. I make my own keto jam, and the rest of the time I just low carb.
And you're very much sustainable now. There's nothing that you feel that you can't sustain in the lifestyle you have on an ongoing basis.
I could cut down on alcohol. I pretty much have a glass. I'll go 2 or 3 days without a glass of wine, but I'll have a glass of wine on some evenings, and then on the weekends I'll have 2 or 3 glasses of wine in a night. Maybe a beer, a low carb beer. I find that now I've sort of reached this this sort of magic number. My weight has remained really constant over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And it fluctuates sort of, like I was saying this to you the other day, sort of fluctuates between 1 and 2 kilos from my sort of 92 and a half kilos to 94 kilos. And it doesn't really change that much. Even if like last weekend, I was playing a gig in my band, and we were around at the bass player's house, and he bought a whole load of pizzas for everybody. So I had a couple of slices of pizza, which is really rare for me. I just don't eat it. But the next day I'm on the scales. God, I must have put on 3 kilos because I had 2 or 3 slices of pizza. But you don't. As long as it's like once in a while, it's not going to hurt you too much. But I found now I'm in this zone, I just pretty much stick to it, and I don't I don't really miss anything. And look, even if I was around at somebody's house and they were serving pasta, I'd have a plate of pasta. But I don't go out of my way to eat it.
And the thing is, you're not feeling like you're going to, just because you had a bit of bread or a plate of pasta, you don't feel like you're going to go back. You are in control. You make a conscious choice that I'm going to put some carbs in my mouth and eat that, but then the next day you're back to normal. So you've come to that point now where you're totally in control of what you eat, and you're very comfortable with your diet. Yeah?
I really like being the weight I am. I really, I feel really comfortable in my weight. I'm sort of proud of myself. It's been very costly. I've had to throw out all my clothes. I had to buy pretty much a brand new wardrobe. I've gone down from a 40 waist, and I can fit in with some clothes, to a 34 waist, 36 waist, not 36 waist. I was at, like I say, double XL, triple XL shirts down to an XL or sometimes a large shirt. And I've got to say, my better half says, "Oh, you look really good."
She's onto you, mate.
You're wearing
she just views you like a piece of meat running around the house, mate. She's after you 24/7. Mate, tell us about the rest. So I know that you're a gym head, because you and I did a pump class the other week, and you're incredibly strong and you've got some really good endurance. So you do pump classes. What else? Give us a snapshot into your exercise, your sleep, your routines for some of the guys who are interested more than just the food.
Well, I pretty much get up every day at 6:30. 2 mornings a week I'll go for a walk. Not a big walk, 2 or 3 kilometers, and then I would say at least 4 times a week I'll do a pump class at the gym, and I can either do an early morning class or a late afternoon class, or I can get away from work for an hour in the daytime and do a class. And then maybe 1 time a week I'll do a yoga class just to do some stretching, and I play golf on Saturday mornings, just 9 holes. I don't feel like I'm overdoing it. One week I sort of did 5 punk classes, and I thought I was sort of pushing it a little bit on that particular week.
Yeah.
I think it's all about balance, really, and whatever suits you. But I've sort of become a little bit addicted to it. I really like the workout. I feel like I'm really strong again, and my posture's better, and I'm certainly sleeping a bit deeper than I was.
Mate, I was in the room. I was in the room with you, mate. And there was 30 women in fucking skin tight leotards in the same room, sweating right alongside us. And I now know why you're addicted to it, because it's not the exercise. You were just looking at the lady folk in the mirror.
It's always good to be halfway in the class so you can look forward.
Oh, well done, mate. Just tips from the professionals. And that's it. It's just we joke about it, but it's actually interesting, because one of the things you need to do when you exercise is find something that you love and motivates you. If going into a class environment with a group of other people makes you work harder because you're not going to put the bar down, you're not going to fuck around, you're not going to stop. If that's the level of motivation, that's great. And I know, because I was there with you doing the class, we worked consistently and constantly without a break during the class, because you're surrounded by people doing the same things. There's that level of motivation.
The motivation is when you're seeing women that are only 55, 60 kilos lifting more than you are, and you think, shit, I've got to get my shit together, you know?
Sleep, mate. Sleep for you has always been a challenge. Is that getting better?
It's better when I don't drink.
Yes.
When I don't drink for a couple of nights, 2 or 3 nights, then I sleep really well. If I drink, I don't sleep well. I sleep really well when you pass out. I won't say pass out, but when you've had a couple of glasses of wine, you go to sleep. Then once that alcohol wears off, then you're waking up at, say, 3 o'clock in the morning. And because I run my own business, and it has been stressful the last few months, then your mind starts ticking over. But I've sort of learned some good meditation techniques, breathing technique, and I use those on a regular basis. Good. And I find that really helps.
And I think what we do know, just on the biomechanics, the medical side, is that the alcohol boosts the metabolism. It certainly boosts the body temperature. It very often boosts the heart rate. So you're going to bed with elevated heart rate, elevated temperature, and your melatonin is trying to bring your body down and get you to sleep, but your body's going up rather than down. So it makes sense that a few beers late at night, unless you have enough to the point where you pass out, as you've said, just a few, 2 or 3, everything's going to increase, and it's going to create that activity in the brain. So you're going to think too much, and you're not going to sleep very well. So that's the reason why. Yeah. So sleep's good, exercise is good. If I know you're a waving fan. Hey, Karen.
Hi.
Hey, how are you? We're talking about you. She can't hear you. Mate, and I know there's one of the guys from your band has just joined Dadbot, and there's a lot of guys out there you bump into who were where you are, where you were 6 months ago, and are still resisting the urge to change. Give us some of the rhetoric, and I know you do it because I get people all the time say, Chris was in my ear saying this, this, and this. How do you convince a guy of your age into their 50s and 60s who aren't ready to make the change to get in shape, do what they need to do, and end up where you are? What's the sales pitch you use?
Take a good, hard look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself an honest question. Do I look good?
Yeah.
Do I want to do something about it? And if you do want to do something about it, just get it done. There's no excuses. It's a bit like being a smoker. I was a smoker for a long, long time. And you know, if you become a non-smoker, you obviously make that decision at some stage, and you say, okay, I am going to do it now. Just never give up, giving up. And do yourself a favor. I mean, you can say, oh, I'm going to do it for my wife, or I'm going to do it for my kids, but really you've got to do it for yourself. So take a good, long, hard look at yourself with no clothes on, however funny you might find that. Be honest with yourself. Turn sideways and say, really? Am I doing myself any favors? And do it every day. And that was the thing for me. it was like, come on, wake up and be honest with yourself. However funny you might find that, you've got to be honest with yourself and just don't ever give up, because I can only speak from experience. You will feel really good about yourself.
Why is the Dad Bod group good for some of the guys? I know you're there fairly regularly and you comment and jump in there. Some guys need Dad Bod, the group. They need that sort of motivation. Some guys are quite happy doing their own thing. For you, if someone said to you, why should I join that silly group and why should I listen to Mike and do that shit? What for you is the things that you would encourage people to take out of the Dad Bod group?
It's just about being part of a community, I suppose, of like-minded people who are there. They're obviously there because you want to do something about yourself. That's, you were motivated enough to join to see, oh yeah, what's this about? Oh yeah, this is a bunch of guys that want to make themselves better, make themselves look better, feel better about themselves. So it's good to be part of a community, sharing, caring, commenting, knowing that you're not the only one, and there's other like-minded people, because losing weight is not just physical, it's also mental, and it can affect you mentally in a negative way if you don't get your act together. It can affect your personal life, your work life, obviously your health life. So being part of a group where you can share those stories and share your successes as well, I found that really motivating. I mean, it helps that I sort of knew a few of the guys as well from the start, and we were all on the same journey initially together. But it's really nice to see the group growing and people opening up, sharing their story, and people putting their 2 bobs within and saying, yeah, I know where you're coming from. I know how you feel. I was like that, or why don't you try this? And it's great being part of that community. It's like anything, isn't it? You need friends around you when you want to share stories.
You do, and I think the fact it's a very blokey group, which it kind of, to me, I'm in it and doing it, so I'm very close to it every day. But to me, one of the things I love is it is blokes doing stuff for blokes, talking blokey talk. We are in there for the same purpose, but it's a group of guys on the same journey. We are waffling, fluffing, bullshitting. The guys are just there because they have a shared goal and a shared experience, but not trying to make friends. We're all there doing the same thing. Sorry, mate, what were you saying?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And hey, look, if anybody wants to know type of things that I cook or eat, I'm happy to share that. Or if you want to know how the journey's gone and how it continues to go, yeah, I think once you set yourself a goal, set yourself a reasonably bite-sized goals. I didn't set 25 kilos initially. I just said, okay, I want to lose 5 kilos. And then you
were too busy bitching. You were doing, oh, it's not going to work. But then after that first 21 days, you went, hang on a second, it actually works. And I can do this.
Feels like a long journey initially, and it's like anything, when you look ahead too far, it can seem a long way away. But if you take it in bite-sized pieces,
it's fantastic. Actually, I looked back, because I'm a weirdo. I looked back on some of our chats that you and I had on Messenger in the early days, and there was a real shift in your mindset. We went back to, Lynn and I went back and had a look at the ones back in January where you were bitching and carrying on. And not, when I say bitching, I say that out of love and care. Not, you weren't bitching, you were questioning and asking, why this, please explain, I don't agree. You were asking very valid questions. I call it bitching because because it's a mate. But you were asking a lot of questions, and you were questioning and you were doubting and you weren't sure. And then there was this shift. You started to lose weight. Then you're like, this feels good and this is starting to work. There was a complete positive mind shift. And then you started flag waving. Then you were doing, this is great. I feel awesome. The weight's coming off. But there was an amazing change. You could actually see it in the messages as you went through your journey. Your whole headspace changed. And one of the things you just said earlier, which is really important, a lot of the guys don't consider this, is the impact. It's the change of yourself, but it's also the change and the impact on your Dad Bod journey, on the people around you. Because when you lose weight, when you change the way you eat, change the way you cook, when you change your whole mindset and your whole philosophy on wellness, your partner, your kids, your staff, all those people get subjected to this reformed smoker. I'm on a new journey, and that can have some negative or challenging impacts on relationships.
Well, my daughter, she's 20. She came up to me yesterday and she said, "Oh, Dad, I was looking through some of my photos on my iPhone. Look at this picture." And it was probably from around about 18 months ago. And I was like this blown up bubble with a big chin and puffy cheeks. And I looked really quite gross. And I've got to say, and I've looked at a few photos from 18 months ago and I thought, geez, wow, I didn't realize just how unhealthy I looked. And so many people have said such nice things, which is really unusual. So many people said so many nice things to me, I've got to say, over the last 2 or 3 months, and said, wow, you look really great.
And therein lies the problem. You put on 30 kilos in 30 years. So it wasn't a big change. It wasn't like you blew up like a fucking balloon overnight. It took you 30 years to put on weight. So anybody like myself who's known you for 20 of those, I just saw you getting bigger and bigger, but there was no point I went, oh, hang on, Chris is looking like shit. It's because it's a very gradual process. During that time, I had my own journey. I got fat and ugly and lazy and all that sort of stuff. So we all did that, but it happens over time. So it's only when in a 6-month period you've lost 35 kilos, that's when people go, fucking wow, that's a completely different person. But up until then, everyone knew you as a little bit fat, a little bit soft. That was the image we had of Chris until you strip that away. And now the image we have of you now is completely different, a much better version, but a completely different, healthier, more dynamic, more energized version. But that's when we can go, wow, because now we're faced with that immediately. We don't see this over a period of time. So it's a very different journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really, I'm proud of myself. And I'm very thankful for how you've helped me along the journey, Mike. I still like my vegetables though. I know you have I love my veggies and I love my salad. Mind you, I always have. But I'm just careful about, the type of foods that I eat these days. And I'd encourage everybody to just go low carb. It's not hard. You can eat chicken, you can eat meat, you can eat salami, you can put butter on your keto bread rolls. I've got to say, I make bread rolls every single Saturday. It takes me 20 minutes to make the mix, put them in the oven, and they're ready. And I've got half a dozen bread rolls that'll last me for the next 3 or 4 days. Making yourself a nice big bacon butty, just like you normally would, except
Absolutely.
I'm not putting any carbs inside me. So
it's such a blokey, it's such a blokey way of eating. Blokes traditionally, we love meat, we love fat, we love that sort of shit. And if we had a perfect diet, that's what it would include. And keto or low carb, high fat diets are such a comfortable way for blokes to eat. And yet you get these amazing results and you feel so good. So I think guys are very surprised that they can actually eat this decadent lifestyle and still get amazing results.
I mean, I go out to restaurants a lot, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah,
and you can, look, you can. I mean, we went out for Thai meal the other night. I just got a cashew stir fry with chicken breast, but with no rice. And I was completely satisfied and I wasn't full at the end of it. And so you can do it. You can go out for a curry. You don't need to have a big bowl of rice and a naan bread. You just don't. I'll have a poppadom, but I just don't eat that naan bread where you come out of that meal and you feel completely bloated, or I used to feel really bloated. So yeah,
you wash it down with bread and beers and wines and stuff. So it's not just that little bit of rice. It's the end and the end and the end. And the more you have, and you end up feeling like shit. You go home, you lay on the bed, and you can't move. You do the beach dwell routine, and it just takes away from the enjoyment of food.
Substitutes. Like I say, I make, and I'm not, I'm not sort of reformed saint here, but like this morning, I made myself a keto crumpet and it took me 90 seconds to make this crumpet. Almond flour, salt, and a pinch of psyllium husk and an egg, whisked together with a bit of olive oil, put it in the microwave. 90 seconds later, you got a nice crumpet with a butter on it. And we make this keto jam, and keto jam is just frozen berries with some quinoa in there. And it's, you don't go mad with that, but it's a good substitute. And again, I don't feel full, but sometimes I'll miss breakfast anyway. I'll just have a coffee at 10:30 in the morning, and I'll do the 18-6 thing where you're not eating for 18 hours and you just eat between. I'll have a lunch. I'll have a salad for lunch with some chicken or some meat or something, and then I'll have my evening meal around about 6 o'clock. And like last night, my evening meal was some lamb chops and green beans. No potatoes, just green beans and lamb chops. Now, I felt completely satisfied after that meal, but I wasn't full. And then if you want something sweet and you're sort of craving that sweet, I will have some chocolate, but I'll have like a 90% cocoa chocolate. And, that just takes away that. And I'll just have a square or 2 squares at the very most. Whereas before I would have a whole bar of dairy milk chocolate. And that was when I was being a pig. So, I've found now that I've got into that zone, just go for it. And you can be completely satisfied just by, you don't need seconds. You don't need big meals. You don't need potatoes. You don't need pasta.
Yep.
It's cool.
You are an inspiration, man, and thanks for sharing your time, buddy, this afternoon. Appreciate it. I think for me, it's like having a beer with you on a Friday, talking to a mate. So it's a different chat. But what I love is there's nothing that you've said that any of the guys listening and go, I couldn't do that. That's not for me. That wouldn't work. You've just literally had 30 years of a really good lifestyle, travelled a lot, eat a lot, partied a lot, and then drawn a line in the sand like most of the blokes and said, right, enough's enough. You've made some sensible changes to your diet, but nothing dramatic. You still eat really well. You exercise a bit and you fucking look awesome and you feel good and you're energized and you're running a business and you're doing all the things that a lot of the guys would aspire to doing. You are completely successful in what you do. And that's because you've decided to, change everything and say enough's enough.
Draw a line in the sand. And I just want to say one more thing, Mike. You don't need a sandwich at lunchtime. Even if I don't make my own salad, I can still go to Nando's and get a green Mediterranean salad with 3 pieces of chicken. So you can still go to your fast food. If you want to have fast food, just choose carefully, no bread. And you can fill up on salad and chicken and meat, and you'll be completely and utterly satisfied. Go for it, guys.
Thanks, Lorshy. Thanks for your time, buddy.
No worries, Mike. Thank you. See you soon.
Cut it there, mate. This will be my cut. Ready? I'm going to cut this now. You can put on your ugly old face again now.